Have you ever felt aware of something only to discover that you missed the point? Does your mind trick you out of trusting what you know to be true in your heart? Hello, this is Angelscapes, and I'm your host, Nancy Smith.
Welcome to the Angelscapes podcast, where you're encouraged to uncover and develop a direct connection with your soul's power, wisdom, and spiritual intuition that is ready to blossom. We'll explore new ideas, compelling tips, and real steps to help you learn simple spiritual practices. We're a safe place to learn more about accessing your soul's power with education and spiritual wholeness that could bring more clarity to your life. Now here's your host, a practicing medium, Akashic Records practitioner, spirit artist, coach, and mentor, Dr. Reverend Nancy Smith.
Joining me in this episode is me and my heart for a conversation about the struggle between your heart and your analytical mind. And we're going to listen to some thoughts. I'm going to talk about some thoughts on building trust with your intuitive heart while recognizing how your logical mind really works. I am speaking from my book, Divine Love Affair and Akashic Journey. You can find this information in chapter 7. If you have the book, look up chapter 7. If not, you can get the book, Divine Love Affair and Akashic Journey, on Amazon, and you can read up on chapter 7. Really important information about the heart, the spirit, the aware self, and the unconscious lower chakra areas that have unconscious thinking and belief systems. Think of yourself as a tree. This is how I like to allegorize it. That's a word. Where we have a trunk and we have roots and we have branches, and the roots are what keep us anchored in the earth. Our roots represent our unconscious self, and they're what keep us in life. That's what keeps us alive and functioning. And it's really important for those roots to be absorbing in everything from Mother Earth, everything from the resources, the nurturing and the chemistry that is where we've come from. And then in the trunk of the tree is the flow that exchanges the nurturing from the roots into the tree itself, into the branches that create the leaves and the fruit and the seeds and all the stuff that keeps the tree growing, learning, procreating, and that kind of thing. And what is in the center of the trunk is what I call our heart, that we are the heart. Our aware self is what keeps the flow of our lives going. So the exchange for the nurturing from the lower echelon, the unconscious self, flows through and informs the higher echelon, which is the subconscious higher self. And then there's an exchange of information, just like the tree exchanges the chemistry to keep the tree growing and developing. And that's what we need, is that trunk, that aware part of ourselves that consciously makes decisions and judgments that impact the flow of the energy between our conscious centers. Our heart center integrates all it knows in order to captain the ship. Does it work that way? Lots of times, no. Lots of times it is our unconscious self. It is the roots of our life, the things that we learned since our inception, since we were born, and some stuff from past lives that build our belief systems. And our unconscious self really thinks that this is the part of ourselves that keeps us alive and functioning and growing and safe. But the unconscious self has lots of rules. It has lots of beliefs. And it's not in the present moment. Our unconscious self works from the past. And do you ever hear people say you need to get in the present moment to make things happen? Things are healed. Creativity happens in the present moment. So when we're living in the past, we can't go forward. When we're always referring to, oh, I remember when that happened, therefore this is going to happen because I remember it happened before, we're no longer learning and growing or integrating our learning into a new experience. We're simply reliving what we already experienced at least once. And sometimes when we're reliving what we've experienced at least once, we're creating an outcome of what we're doing now to equal what happened to us in the past. So it's really important that we see what we see, what we felt, what we feel, what we felt, see what we did, how was the trauma, what kind of impact did it have, and then heal it and integrate that learning with our higher self and with the resources. What resources did I use? What was really going on when this event happened that has now traumatized me and it is informing me from the past instead of staying in the present moment. I call that stuck energy. As a matter of fact, when we've had trauma in our lives, it can create a flow of energy that only it only defers to its own self. It's constantly referring back to, well, this is what happened, so this is what's going to happen. The real healthy way of living, the healthy flow of energy, is that we have something, an event, or we have a nurturing event that is happening, and we bring it up from our feet or from the earth into our hearts, and then move it up into the heavens and share with our higher self. And then energy comes down through our hearts and says, here's this, here's that, here's some learning, here's some growing, and that goes down and into our feet, into our lower selves, and into the earth, that says, now that we've learned this, we want to create this other thing. And that's the exchange. That's the flow of energy that keeps us moving in the present moment and keeps us creating and keeps us nurturing ourselves and loving ourselves. When we're in a traumatic, stuck energy, we're not nurturing ourselves. We're actually causing an imbalance within ourselves. It's unconscious. You're not doing it on purpose, but it's your responsibility. It's our responsibility to bring these things into our conscious self, into our heart-centered self, into our aware self, because everything happens in the aware self. So when you your mind tricks you out of trusting what you know to be true in your heart, it's doing it for a good reason. It's scared. It knows better than we do, or it thinks it knows better than we do. And it doesn't allow us to have new thoughts or new growth. And this is not healthy. And when we are in that fear, we lose our personality, we lose the essence of who we really are, and we start to build who we think we should be based on all of these traumatic experiences or all of these impactful experiences. They don't always have to be traumatic, and our heart is no longer part of the solution or part of the flow of what's happening to us in our lives. And when we want to develop our intuition and we want to develop a consistent flow with and connection to our higher power and our higher self, we get tripped up because we're getting tripped up by the unconscious mind. And let me talk to you about why the analytical mind and the heart don't always work together. It's not what you think it is. It's never what you think it is. It's kind of a pun there, but it's what you feel it is. The unconscious self, because a lot of times our aware self and our conscious self are asleep at the wheel, and the unconscious mind is always awake and trying to take over because it knows better than our aware self, knows better than any other part of ourselves. It knows better than our higher self. And so it takes over the mind. It takes over our mind is a computer that is constantly being programmed. And so the unconscious self is now going to program the analytical mind. So the logic that we think that we have, the analysis that we think we're using, is based on fear. It's based on limited thinking or stuck thinking. And it's not going to let the heart, it's not going to let the higher mind, it's not going to let the subconscious mind come in for 1 second, because it's not safe to do that. It feels, the unconscious mind, the ego mind, feels it's not safe to allow that to happen. I also want to add in that our unconscious mind also has patterns and beliefs and reaction systems that come from past lives. And so sometimes we are reacting to something that we have no idea where this came from, but we just know it's true. And a lot of times those emotions and those feelings are so strong that we think that it's intuition, that we think that this is the message from our higher self, that this is how it is, I'm using my intuition to figure this out, where actually you're using a reaction system, a belief system that's based in an old thinking process, an old thought process. Um, the age of reason has reigned for hundreds of years. It was designed to help humankind and go beyond the reactions, the fears, the superstitions that were informing humankind from the limbic brain and its root consciousness. So the age of reason was trying to get people out of the fear. And I totally get why that happened. This reign of reason, which is meant to give credence to scientific method and logic above all else, it's now kind of a passing trend. As human beings, we have grown quite a bit. We're outside of those superstitions. We're outside of the fears that we used to have 400 years ago. We have a new set of fears, don't get me wrong, but slowly a new trend is establishing itself towards integrating thought with body, heart, and soul. This is a real thing, guys, and this is really, really important to kind of grab hold of this and work with this concept of the integration body, mind, and soul. And what we're integrating is the old fears, the stuck energy, and the concepts and the beliefs that hold us back with our body, who also holds a certain degree of its own truth, its own stories, with our aware self, with our higher subconscious, our higher soul, our higher essence of who we are. It's our spirit that lives in our heart, our personality, our talents, our gifts that our heart can bring forward when we are aware and working with whatever's holding us back, or working with whatever's inspiring us, or whatever we're dreaming about. So let's go back to the mind and how we program our mind. Now, I said that the unconscious mind can take over and program our mind into fears and superstition. And did you ever see a group of people or see something where what you fear is what happens, what you think is what comes true, and you have enough people fearing something and it actually happens. It actually comes true. That's the energy of the mind. That's how powerful the mind is. And that's how powerful group thinking can be. It's kind of scary sometimes. When a mind comes into its, when the aware self wakes up and it begins to program the mind into new thinking, it's very scary too, because we could be going against what the group mind is thinking. You could have 10 people in a room and one person disagrees and everybody else agrees. Does that make that one person, that 10th person, wrong? No, not necessarily, because they could be stuck in with group thinking. And that one person is saying, wait a minute, I have a different idea. I have a different thought. And that thought could be coming from, I'm not going to listen to this fear right now. I have some creativity that's coming. My inspiration is coming, is starting to wake up. So our inspiration is the language between ourself and our higher self and source. And it's the language that speaks to us about what could be or what really is there, and how we can interact with what really is there. Where our unconscious mind, there's always a tiger hidden in the woods. There's always something that's ready to kill us. There's always something that's going to take us out and cause post-apocalyptic nonsense and kill off all of humanity. That's our unconscious mind speaking. Let's not kill off humanity, and let's move to our aware self, and let's move to inspiration that comes from a higher source, that comes from our soul. Our soul isn't out to punish us. Our soul isn't out to make us miserable. And our soul is not out to judge us and send us to hell after we die. Just not happening. But our unconscious mind really believes this. We have hundreds of years of being programmed as human beings to be terrified and to be group thinking, to have group thinking, and to be afraid of having individual thinking, having that individual thought and creativity. It's very hard to do because we have conditioned ourselves to be group thinkers. And right now, the group thinking isn't working, right? So things are going on here that we have believed for quite a long time that it should be this. And guess what? It's not that. You could name at least 5 of those things, right, guys? So what I want you to do is calm down and get aware and get into your aware self and look at the world as it was really created to be. It is really meant to be. And by doing that, you need to use your intuition. You need to use that connection to that higher power so that you could see what's really in front of you instead of seeing through the eyes of fear or seeing through the eyes of belief systems that were developed since you were a tiny person who was trying to figure out the world and made lots of rules and lots of expectations since they were, pre-verbal. So your 3-year-old is telling you how the world works, and it's your fearful 3-year-old, maybe not your creative, really open-hearted, fun 3-year-old. Maybe it's a 3-year-old that didn't, get enough to eat, or everything is just so much bigger, and everything is so much wider, and everything is so much louder. There's a fearful 3-year-old that really has a lot of strong rules. If you've ever hung around a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, they're pretty intense on what the rules of life should be, and those 3-year-olds, they survive inside of us, and they tell us how things are, and they're not correct. So, but they're so convincing and compelling, those parts of ourselves, that we actually think that they are part of our higher mind or they're part of our intuition. And this is where the trick comes in. This is where the conscious awareness needs to step in and very gently begin to untangle that stuck energy, and then say and show that 3-year-old, look at the miracle of life, look at the miracle of your soul, look at the miracle of the earth, look at the miracle of what we can create now, and take that little one by the hand and say, let's grow together, let's figure this out together. um, Many of our beliefs and understandings that are in our mind, they can be tracked back to the root level. And the root level is, again, programming our minds. And consciously, we need to make a decision to not allow that to happen simply by programming our mind with inspiration from spirit, with creative thinking, with love, with nurturing, with courage. You can feel afraid of something, but you can also bring in a deeper understanding or a wider understanding of what it is that you're afraid of, and a new thought can be born. And then thought precedes reality. So once a new thought is born, new lifestyle can be born, new choices can be made and can be realized. So this is where the aware self is so important. You guys can't go to sleep behind the wheel of the car. You'll crash and you'll be afraid, and then you won't know where in the world you are, and you'll get burned out and you'll be upset and life isn't worth living and all that stuff that goes on. But when you stop a minute, and regain that aware self, regain that heart-centered living, then you'll understand that the heart is the champion of discovery and creative thinking. The heart is the one that created a better shelter. The heart is the one that created the better tool to forage for roots. The heart is the one that feeds the body and nurtures the progression of the spirit and the soul. The soul feeds that energetic thinking with more inspiration and more information. Once the heart begins to discover things, begins to explore things, begins to create things, the soul steps right in and gives you more information, gives you more of that, please, thank you very much. And when we are in that thinking, we want to tell our minds, I want more of this. When we want to program our minds, find more of this, find more of this energetic thinking, find more of this creativity. The heart and soul consciousness are behind science all the way. When we're tirelessly curious about something, we are usually being guided by our souls to dive even deeper. When we open ourselves up to knowing and learning, we eventually are rewarded with some amazing discoveries or inventions or realizations, or maybe the person who we've been afraid of and have been negative towards, we now see that they are somebody that we want to be with, who we now can create relationship, create love with. So we want to reprogram our mind from the fear into the creative thinking, into that soul connection. There's a fellow, Dmitry Mendeleev, saying his word name right. He's the author of the periodic table of elements. This is one of my favorite stories. He was a scientist and a chemist, and his self-appointed task was to create a table of chemical elements that were known to scientists, and he wanted to organize them in a process so we could understand where these all these different chemicals that were being discovered right, left, and center. And he created flashcards of all of the known elements, and he would spend hours and hours and days and weeks trying to organize them according to their qualities to see where they would fit in. And the organization didn't quite work. And one night, after a long, 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 many days, many years, and also a long hours with not any sleep, he had everything in front of him and he dozed off in the middle of working and he had a dream. And the cards that represented all of the known elements floated up in front of him and organized themselves. But as they did that, there were all kinds of blank cards all the way around them with elements that were not known. And he drew up this table of elements and he shared it with his scientist friends and co-workers. And they began to use this table, and the organization of the table was including elements, again, that were not yet discovered, but they were going to be in here, like with this principle, with that principle. And that periodic table is still being used today. And all of those blank spaces that he saw and sketched up and trusted his vision are now filled with elements that have been discovered since he made the periodic table. And it was perfect, absolutely perfect. So he reconstructed a vision or a dream. And this dream came from his desire to understand something, his desire to see something and know something. And thought precedes reality. And he hung in long enough with not, I'm not going to do this and I know nothing and negative. It's just like, there has got to be an organizational principle. There's got to be something here that I can learn. And sure enough, his mind connected, I believe his mind connected to the super mind, and he got the information that he needed because he hung in there long enough. We can do that in our lives. If there's something we don't understand, we don't have to go back to the tried and true, and this is how it's always been. If it doesn't feel right and you don't have the answer, you could say, I want the answer, and I'm going to hang in there long enough, just like Dimitri did, and receive the creative answer, the creative understanding that I'm looking for that's going to move me forward in my life. And why I'm talking to you about this is because many of us are stuck, and many of us are trying to use our intuition, but it's not working. And our intuition is very unreliable. So why should I work on the intuition? It's just superstition, but that's not true. Superstition is what's based in your fear, and what's based in, I don't like this and this is crazy, is that's a belief system is where it's where the superstition is. But what's in the growth and the learning is the intuition that connects to your higher power that stems from your aware self. There's a lot of inventions that still need to be made. There's a lot of understanding. There's a lot of knowing that still needs to be acquired. And we're not going to do it when we're stuck in belief systems. And our lives will be a struggle when we're stuck in fear. We're going to keep creating the same answers to the fear that we had the first time around. And that's got to be off the table. It's now time to embrace your intuition and test it out and learn about it and trip over it and learn what is a belief system and what is really from source, what is from your soul. Your soul always knows what to do. Your soul always has the answer. Our souls are huge. They've been around quite a long time. And not to confuse the souls with our spirit, who are very much knowing ourselves, knowing our body, knowing our gifts, and our essence. But we want our essence to not connect so much to the fears. We want our essence to learn from the fears and bring them to the soul, and then create something new from where the trauma was or where the stuck energy was, and come up with, just like Dimitri did, a new periodic table, a new organizational principle that will take us to a brand new place. And we really need to do that. We're really at a place in our human growth all over the globe where we need to use this, access our own wisdom and our own intuition and understand what is intuition, what is connection to source, and what is not. Our souls are not distant from us. They're not judging us. They're not waiting for us to um, do it wrong and then we get punished for it. That's not what soul, that's not what source is for. Our soul is waiting for us to listen. Our soul is waiting for us to reach out and connect and allow that flow, energy of flow, to go beyond the heart into the subconscious mind and come back. And our job is to integrate the ego, the unconscious beliefs into the higher power. That's our job, to mine for the gold, mine for the gifts that are in the shadow self, that are in the fears, that are in all of the living experience, and bring it into source, bring it into that higher power so we have a higher understanding of ourselves and what life is really meant to be. And we can create miracles in our lives if we do this. And these miracles can be tiny little miracles, and then they're not miracles that go against nature. Instead, they're miracles that go even further because we're now connected to nature, the nature of our thought, the nature of our souls, the nature of energy, of what really created us. Our heart is capable of wondrous thoughts and incredibly creative beliefs, not even beliefs, but creative ideas and love and connection. When a thought or idea is defended and limited in its scope, it's time to check out the root source and the motivation behind that thought. And when our ideas or thoughts is free flowing, inspired, and you have a sense of growth and development, you're energetically aligned for the best possible outcome. So what do you want to feed? What do you want to create in your life? And I think if you ask yourself that question truly, and you sit down quietly with yourself, you're going to come up with, I don't want to live in this pain of this fear anymore. I don't want to live in the anger anymore. I don't want to live in this anxiety anymore. I would like something a little bit different. Thank you very much. I'd like to create my life in a way that really makes me happy, from a power within. We're granted and given so much power, all within our aware self, all within our connection to our soul, as we blend with our learning experiences. Now, one little thought here. I know a lot of people, and I've read a lot of spiritual workers say your ego is working against you. Your ego is not your friend. Your ego is negative, and on and on and on. And what I have to say about that is your ego is your resource. Your ego is meant to hold your spirit, and your spirit is meant to connect with your soul. So let's not blast the ego out. I told somebody they were amazing, brilliant person, and their analytical mind was tremendous, and they've done a lot of work in it, but they were struggling with trying to learn their intuition and accept their intuition. And there was a fight going on inside. And I said, well, we don't want to undo the analytical mind because that's what's gotten you here. And if you X out your analytical self, your logical self, you'll be a hot mess because you won't know where you're coming and going. So what we want to do is have your essence, your aware self, begin to integrate what was the learning from this and what is the higher learning from this. And then that's called integration, which is also called ascension. I've talked about this before. And so we want to bring those gifts from our life experience, and our soul is very much aware of what we've been through and where we've gone. Our soul is just waiting for us to integrate it, to bring it home, baby, and allow it to go to its highest form, its highest understanding. And that's how we're going to change humanity. That's how we're going to start walking a different walk, walking a different path. So important to do right now because we are on a kind of a crossroads. We are at a crossroads. Well, let's just destroy humanity one more time, or let's take a different pathway and let's create. I call it angelscapes. Let's create heaven on earth, or let's create awareness as we walk on our paths together by integrating our life's experiences with our higher self and come in with a brand new higher connection, higher understanding, compassion, unconditional love, unconditional creativity, and inventions of things that are needed now, but we can't get there from here because we're kind of loaded up with shoulds, should-haves, it, and fears and expectations and things that are limited in the past, right? Um, I have I call it the Akashic Journey to Soul Contracts. It's designed to help you discover beliefs and rules that you are consciously defending all the time. And through observation and listening to inner dialogues while working in sacred space, um, I can work with you, and I work with myself, and anybody else who's willing to sit with me, can open up these closed energies that we're talking about. And once your consciousness is open, you'll be free to explore your life's purpose, and learn and grow a little more deeply, a little more freely. And your personal vibration will increase, and you will feel more of a sense of well-being, as well as access to this creative aspect that is yours by right, by design, by how we were created. We were created to thrive. We were created to be creators. And when our core root belief systems influence our analytical mind, and it blocks out our knowing from our hearts, from our aware self, from our intuitive self, and our higher self, we can't go anywhere. You're stuck. That's it. Just hunker down, get a blanket and a hot cocoa, and that's all you're going to be doing. Or see yourself exactly where you are and look for that higher dream. Look for that aware self that takes you to that higher self that can unravel the stuck thinking. That's the way to go. That's the way to do it. And if you want to use your intuition and you want to rely on your intuition, or I mean, have your intuition be more reliable, I should say that, and trust your intuition, it's the belief systems that need to be set aside and worked through, and the intuition will fly. It will sing. You'll be golden, and you'll be able, thought precedes reality. You'll be able to create all kinds of things in your life. So that's my talk for this evening. That's all there is right now. I want to invite you to reach out to me at angelscapes.net if I can help you in this work, or if I can inspire you to step out of a stuck energy and create something beautiful in your life. So it's angelscapes.net. You can private message me on Facebook at Nancy of Angelscapes. And you can email me and make a discovery session with me if you want to talk more about what I do and where you are. It's not a reading, but I offer free time with Nancy at Angelscapes. Go into angelscapes.net, go under book a session and look for discovery session. Learn about what Nancy does and make an appointment, and we'll talk about you and your stuck energy and what I offer you in terms of Akashic journeys to soul contracts, past lives, healing, angel card readings, angel Akashic readings. What does your soul want you to know right now? And reach out and let's break some of these stuck energies and get you living in a creative life that's going to benefit you and make you really happy. So for now, stay safe, stay in love, stay in grace, nurture your spirit, nurture your heart, listen to your aware self, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining the Angelscapes podcast. We hope you've gained new insights and inspiration for your journey to uncover and access your soul's power. For more information and a deeper dive into finding clarity in your life, go to angelscapes.com. Remember to subscribe so you can be part of the discussion. It may just change your life. See you next time.